Hi everyone, it's Megan with AboveRubyStudio.com. Thank you so much for joining me today for another Tuesday tutorial. Today's Tuesday tutorial is going to be a little bit of a Q&A on the new Cricut Imagine. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the pros and cons of this machine and really try to answer the question, do I need this machine right now, for those of you who have not purchased it yet. There's been a lot of talk on message boards and different forums and things on some of the pros and cons. So what I really wanted to do was try to give you as honest of a possible review on this machine as possible. I've been playing with it for a while now, and I have to tell you, I really do love it, even though there are some flaws and things within some of the newness of the machine and some of the things that I know ProvoCraft is working on and getting out there. But at the time of recording this video, I just want to talk to you about currently what's going on. I also want to talk to you a little bit about what Above Ruby Studio is doing with the new Cricut Imagine machine. There's great things coming, and I'm very excited to share them with you. I don't want to give away too much information, but if you know Above Ruby Studio at all, I can promise you great things, better than anything we've ever done before, is coming with this new Cricut Imagine machine. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into some of the things that we can talk about. Really, I want to answer the question, is the Cricut Imagine right for you? And basically, I'm going to start with some of the cons to the machine, because there are a few things right now that people need to be aware of and think about. As you can see, it's sitting here behind me, and you can see all the way in the background is my Cricut Expression. First thing people ask is, do I need a Cricut Expression still, or can I get rid of my Cricut Expression and sell that? I wouldn't jump on the bandwagon of selling your Cricut Expression right away if you have an Imagine until you play with it a little bit and really are sure that's what you want to do, because there are different functionalities to the Cricut Expression than there are to the Imagine. To answer some of the questions about the Imagine itself, it does not cut chipboard. It's just not able to hold the thickness of chipboard. It's not able to hold things much thicker than like a thin acetate type of material. It does have a multi-cut function on here, so you are allowed to really get in there and cut things that are sturdier several times over, which is really great about the Imagine. But things that are too thick will not fit through this upper printing portion. To answer a further question, you cannot feed paper in through under the roller bars like you would on your Expression if you're just going to cut. You still have to feed it through this top insert mat here, even if you're just cutting. So that's something to really keep in mind. Something that has been a concern and a question are the cutting mats. The cutting mats really are not as sticky per se. They are made of a different material than the original Cricut Expression cutting mats. It's not necessarily a problem, but it is something that is a little bit of a concern, and until some things are figured out with using repositionable adhesives and things, I've been using the Tombow repositionable glue runner on the back of my papers, and that's been working really, really well when I've had things that are a little bit thicker that are slipping. In general, the rollers and things have kept my papers down. I haven't had too much of a problem. It just depends on the materials that you're working with. It's kind of one of those things, kind of pro or con, depending on how you look at it. I really think that ProvoCraft is listening to its consumers and its users, so it's something that I am sure they are working on. They listened to us initially and tried to really make this better for us to begin with. I think it has a lot to do with the temperature and climate of where you are located. It's one of those things. So that is kind of a con right now. It's not as sticky as it could be, and with the print heads and things involved in the Imagine, just going ahead and putting on a Zig 2-way or a stick and spray adhesive isn't necessarily recommended yet, but I can promise you that is something that we are testing here at Above Ruby Studio, and we'll try out and we'll report to you. As far as some of the other negatives, it is a very large machine. So if it's something that you're debating on getting and you don't have a very large craft space to work with, you need a lot of space, and you need space for it to come out for the paper to come out the back as well. So it's not like it can sit flat against a wall. The paper actually feeds in through here for printing. It comes all the way out the back and then feeds back through for cutting out the front. So if you don't have that kind of space or room, you need to kind of take that into consideration. It is a lot bigger than your Cricut Expression. Some of the other things, little things that ProvoCraft is working on, right now it's not working with the Gypsy device. It is something that they are working on, and it will work with the Gypsy device. It's just not there yet. So if you're really excited to get it and you only use your Gypsy, don't get it right yet because it's not ready for that. It's coming very soon though, so I have no doubt about that with ProboCraft. They're great that way. Some of the other things that people have had questions about and there's an option for is changing the colors of your images. So for example, let's say you want to cut out this Best Friends here on this Imagine More cartridge. You can change the color of several layers within the thing, but say you want to change the color of just the flowers or just the wording of Best Friends. You cannot change everything. You can't change background colors and things like that. You can flood fill it, which means you can fill in the entire Best Friends with, say, a purple or something that matches your layout, and that's not a problem. But it does lose its intricacies and designs in the process of doing that. It does what it's called a flood fill. That's what the Imagine was designed to do, and it's been a little bit of, I think, a misconception when it comes to the Imagine, that people think they're going to be able to get it. They're going to, say, take one of the pattern papers that are on many of the cartridges, and they're going to be able to change the background color but still keep the pattern. That's not the case. That's just not how the Imagine was designed to work. I don't know if it's necessarily something ProboCraft is going to change. In my opinion, they're not going to change it because that would mean they wouldn't have to continue to make as many cartridges with patterns. They do make two different kinds of cartridges for the Cricut Imagine. There are the cartridges that have all of the fun cutouts and the shapes and things like that, but they also are making patterns or palette cartridges that work, that just have different types of pattern paper on them or different color palettes on them. They are really great. In my personal opinion, I'm a little bit leery of purchasing them for the cost, just because I don't feel like I'm going to be using that many of the exact same pattern of paper. If it was the type of thing where you bought a pattern paper cartridge and a palette cartridge and you could change out the background colors of, say, you know, for example, this pattern on here, the music notes. I love this music notes page, but really, how many times am I going to print it out in the exact same way? I love that you can print out my own papers. I love that I can print it out in different sizes and it scales. It does all those fantastic things, but realistically, you're only going to print and cut out so many of the exact same patterns. So hopefully you follow what I'm saying there. If you need more clarification or details, I'm happy to point that out. But just to try to keep moving through, I'm going to move on. So, another thing that I would consider a little bit of a con to the machine just would be the price point right now. I think that it's something that is going to come down just with the cartridges and things until you consider everything. When we had talked in the last video about the 11 cents, that was talking about, I had some questions on that. That was talking about cutting out like little images. That's how many like images you can cut out. It cuts them out at around 11 cents. To cut full pages, I guess it keeps it at around 65 cents if you're cutting full 12 by 12 pages, which I don't know that many people are necessarily doing. But just to clarify that, what Jenna and I were talking about, we're cutting out the little images and things like that. So just for clarification on that. And the other thing is that supposedly the ink cartridges do dry out a little bit over time if you're not using it regularly. So that's something else to kind of keep in mind. Great things about it. I love so many of the things that you can do, the creative possibilities with it. I really do love the printing and some of the capabilities that I know they're coming out with as far as being able to eventually, what it seems like they're doing is being able to print photos from your Gypsy, upload your photos from your personal library to your Gypsy and print them out and design with them into the Imagine. I think that's going to be awesome. It's not there yet, so don't go buying it ready for that. It's just something that I understand that ProboCraft is working on, which I think is great. I love the options of just the design capabilities of you know, printing things directly and not having to coordinate my own paper. I love many of the functions just in the cute images that are on here, the way that you can layer things effortlessly, the way that you can use the RGB codes to perfectly match any paper that you have in your current stock. You know, there's just a plethora of options there as well. I really like that you can just cut, you know, from your original cartridges. I know some people have had some questions and concerns with it not reading the older cartridges. Some of the things that you have to do for that are tips and tricks that Above Ruby Studio is going to cover in later projects as well as videos on YouTube. Not going to get into too much of that right now, but a basic trick to that is always going back to your main menu screen, putting in your cartridge, and waiting for it to fully load before going in and starting to design with it instead of being on your virtual mat, waiting for it to load up that way. So that's just a quick little tip without going into too much detail.